In this task, we're going to take a look at the opening screen to Xcode. So let's zoom in a bit so we can see this better. I just got the new Magic Mouse. I'm still getting used to it. You know, I'll be here at home with a Magic Mouse, then I go to work and I've got a different configuration. It's interesting. So here we go. So here it says, welcome to Xcode. So you can create your new project. Let's give that a click. Let's zoom in just a little bit. That's a bit better. You know, whenever I embark on a new software project, if I'm into new software land, I'm dealing with something that's totally off the wall, totally different to me. I'm a Windows guy by trade. And what I do is I spend quite a bit of time. I resist the urge to go in there and start banging out code. Now, the best thing you can do is to get to know your software, get used to it. It's kind of like when you move into a new house or apartment. You don't unpack right away, maybe, and you kind of get used to things. You look around and you crack a beer and you say, I'll put that over there, and that'll go over there. And then you wake up in the morning and you look around and go, okay, let's start moving stuff around. We settled on it. So make yourself at home in your new software platform. So if you take a look here, look at applications, and there's Cocoa applications, Cocoa Applet script applications, Quartz Composer application, command line tools. There's some options down here. Create document-based application. Use core data for storage. Let me zoom in on that. I was just reading about this today. So pretty much that's kind of like the Microsoft equivalent of tables and columns and relations and all that. And it's how you persist data. So if a user has your application open, say your game that they're playing on, and you want to store that high score, that's how you're going to do it. So get to know all the pieces and bits and components. Here's the framework library. You have the Cocoa framework, Cocoa library, bundle, BSD-C library, STL-C++ library, that's cool, and then JNI library. I'm reading a book right now, and it talks about programming in C++, and if you do it right, you can program in C++ and put like a Cocoa wrapper around it, if you will. So you can actually design your games generically in a sort of a generic way, so you could port these to Droid eventually. It's a pretty fascinating book. I'm kind of holding off on that just yet. But it seems like a very interesting concept, and that's some advanced video I'll be doing in probably about 6 or 8 months from now. But the book's rather fascinating. You know, I got to tell you one thing. I did the Windows thing for years, as I mentioned. Now I'm doing Apple. And, you know, the Droid thing's coming out. You know, Google and all that. It's important that you not be a software snob, as I call it. Don't be a software snob. As a developer, you should be able to learn anything and work on any platform. And you'll be much happier. If you end up being a software snob, you'll be like one of those miserable little mainframe programmers. Not to insult anybody, but I've seen a couple of these guys in my time, and they're like cogs in the machine. That's all they know. Everything's mainframe. And lo and behold, as soon as mainframe comes along, you know, .NET came along, and those guys were thrown by the wayside in some strange ways. So don't be a software snob. Understand that this is computer science. So view yourself as a software developer. So, you know, embrace the knowledge, if you will. So let's continue on. I digress. Application plugin. There's an automation action. This is some neat stuff. Address booking plugin, installer plugin. There's a WebKit plugin. Quartz Composer. You know, in just a few nights I was poking around this, I had a ball. If you ask me, this is where all the magic and applications happen. That those really cool graphics and neat colors. And if a user, purchasing an application, a lot of times it's the user interface that'll really get people that coolness factor, the wow factor, and that's why, especially children, they'll buy applications. They'll say, "Hey, Mom, look at this. Can I buy this? It's $1.99." And they'll say, "Sure, go buy that and get out of my hair." So, and then there's Interface Builder plugin, and then there's system plugins, audio. There's a lot of audio stuff here. Generic C++ plugin. Generic kernel extension. You get the idea. IOKit driver. Scroll down a bit. And then there's also a checkbox for with Cocoa View. And there's other. So pretty much this is what I like to term, and I've read this in other books, your ecosystem. So this is your development ecosystem. Now, Droid, it seems, they're still piecing this together. And it still seems kind of sloppy. The Droid folks will kind of yell at me about that, but I did quite a bit of reading on it. And when I decided, should I go Droid or should I go Apple? And I decided with Apple because it looked like a nice put-together framework, the products were good, and also, the most important part, the marketing framework is in place. So, you got to consider this is that, for example, I have a friend who's kind of like a working class stiff like most of us, and he bought a Droid, and I asked him, "Why'd you buy a Droid?" He said, "Well, Apple's too expensive. The iPhone is too expensive." So a lot of folks are going to be along those mentalities. So the way I draw a parallel with this is that, remember those folks when the web came out and they were building all these websites? And the early web developers were so concerned about creating websites for people with older, crappier computers. A while ago I read a marketing study, and those people with older, crappier computers, they didn't buy jack. They didn't buy anything, software, products, anything. They weren't in that socioeconomic base that allowed them to buy things. So why would you program for that? You're doing this for economic reasons, I'm assuming. So it's kind of like if you're going to be a real estate developer. Do you develop real estate in the swamps, or do you do it up in the mountains where the air is fresh and the neighbors are nice and they're very affluent? So, well, that's about it. Steve from the Global Code Guild signing off. Get to know your development ecosystem. Learn to love this platform. Final thought. Saw a web article. They talked about Droid programmers to date and also Apple programmers. And over the span of time, Apple programmers crank out way more apps than Droids do, the Droiders. So the Apple folks love this platform, and I'm starting to see why. I have like a huge stack of books, and I've been living this software night and day, and I'm really loving it. Okay, check out our other videos, please, on theglobalcodeguild.com, and don't forget to sign up. As the site grows, I won't be able to answer everybody's email, so the early folks in get preferential treatment.